right, welcome everybody. It's a great honor and a great pleasure to be here at the Metaverse Summit 2023. I'm Blake Lezenski. I'm the Partner Program Director at Outlier Ventures, and I would love to talk to you today about digital luxury. What is digital luxury? A concept that is somehow nebulous but became very prominent in the last couple of years. And the opportunities, tangible opportunities to build technology and meet the needs of luxury brands by building Web3 technology. And I'm sure we have many amazing builders in the audience. So my idea is not only to talk to you about digital luxury, but also to inspire you and show that even though you might be a super technical team or a founder, you might still be capable of creating a luxury project that the luxury brands will go after as technology. All right, so a quick rundown of what we're going to discuss today. First, I'm going to tell you all about how I know about digital luxury. I'm going to briefly talk to you about OV and our work in the luxury vertical. Then we're going to look at the digital luxury, try to define it, and basically understand the foundations of the concept. And then we're going to break down those foundations into specific opportunities that we see in the market right now to build. And then we're going to give you something special, basically founders' success factors, the way we select founders and how we know which projects are most likely to succeed in that vertical as kind of actionable advice for founders in the audience. So without further ado, let's go. So about Outlier Ventures. Outlier Ventures started very early on, investing in crypto initially as an angel syndicate, 2013, 14, depending how you count it. And we've been growing, we've been investing through the bear market as well. Some of our best investments came from the bear market. But in 2019, we've realized that we've accumulated so much amazing resources and knowledge that is still niche to the market, that just doing passive investments is not the model in which we are creating maximum value for us or for the startups we work with. And that's how we arrived at our core business model, which is the Basecamp Accelerator. So since then, since 2019 and the first Basecamp program, we embarked on a journey to essentially become the Y Combinator of Web3. And currently, we are the biggest investor in Web3 projects by the volume of deals. We hold a portfolio of 257 projects, and we have run amazing programs with many outstanding partners, some of them the Farfetch Group. So we run two programs with Farfetch, basically working very closely hand in hand, fully dedicated to the concept of digital luxury and using Web3 technology in that context. Here is an overview of the latest cohort that graduated in July. We have numbers protocol, a provenance tracking blockchain for digital media that can differentiate between AI and human created, e-commerce creating community spaces, spin that fashion, physical first retail infrastructure that enables digital experiences, Me Protocol, which is all about loyalty and combining your loyalty points into one coalition, Soler, which is all about providing Web3 benefits through infrastructure that doesn't require you to be fully onboarded into Web3, Net2Pay, which makes every payment for a luxury brand net zero and creates a positive impact in sustainability, and Woven, which is a creator CRM for Web3. So that program was very well received by the press, both in business as well as the luxury fashion and luxury focused press. And we're very proud of what we learned throughout that program. And some of the key lessons I want to share with you today. So what is the digital luxury paradigm? How is it different from traditional luxury as we came to understand it? So the first aspect, traditional luxury is about price aspiration. One might even say that by purchasing a luxury good, you're showing that you can afford it. So you're kind of showing, let's say, that you're wealthy and signaling that wealth. Whereas in digital luxury, it's more about the cultural value of those assets. It's more about participating in the core moment in the culture and getting significance out of it rather than aspiring to basically signal wealth. Traditional luxury used to be exclusive to a set of people. In digital luxury, much more important than exclusivity is that personalization aspect, is that those assets can now be uniquely tailored to an individual, almost custom made. And this is the new face of luxury in the digital realm. Another aspect is that technically the luxury items were purchased to demonstrate status. But nowadays, in the digital luxury era, the status is demonstrated by access to the cultures and communities that those luxury items represent. So in traditional luxury, luxury can be bought. In digital luxury, it requires your active participation. It's a dynamic lifestyle that blends the physical and digital elements. And finally, back in the day, the physical store of a luxury brand used to be its truest manifestation of the brand IP, the most valuable asset that the brand has. But nowadays, in the digital luxury era, the brand's identity, intellectual property, and values are expressed in the combination of physical and digital realms, both interplaying and working together. So based on that, I want to set forth a thesis that digital luxury, unlike traditional luxury, in absence of materials, beautiful fabrics that are very soft to touch or painstakingly handcrafted by amazing craftsmen by hand, well, we still have amazing digital design, but there is no materials, there is no fabrics. Craftsmanship is a kind of a different version. So what actually defines the concept of digital luxury? And through the work on that program, I came to realize that the digital luxury or luxury in the digital realm is chiefly defined by community and experience as its core aspects. Let me illustrate it on an example, and then maybe talk a bit more about specific opportunities that this creates for Web3 builders in the market, and essentially giving you some ideas on the startups and use cases you can work with. So why community? Well, as we set out in this nice slide with moving arrows, luxury is no longer about what you own, but it's about where you belong and how you participate in communities and how this align with the way you shape your identity and the way you demonstrate your identity in the social context. Many of us remember the Bored Apes Yacht Club, and many of those owners chiefly define themselves as members of the community of bake or bake holders. Essentially, it's an interplay of identity that merges through digital and physical realm as part of a community and a sense of belonging to the community around the brand, being closer to the brand rather than just being a passive consumer. So a useful example, I believe a project from January 2022, Adidas and Prada created a resource project with Zach Lieberman and essentially sourced the AI-generated tiles from the community of holders of an NFT collection that Adidas previously released called Into the Metaverse. And then, as you see those little squares in that image, each one of those little squares was AI generated by the members of the community. So co-creation is one of the fascinating examples how essentially from consumers of a luxury brand, us as audiences can become, it's a term from the energy industry, but essentially become prosumers. Not only we consume the luxury goods, but we also take an active part within the infrastructure that the brand provided for us to co-create it with the brand and essentially bring a whiff of creativity that is external to the brand, but still within brand parameters, and essentially brings people closer, makes them feel like they're participating in the creation and design process. And I truly believe there's no better way to drive engagement and make people build that brand loyalty and that emotional association with the brand. If I was lucky enough to be part of that project, I would definitely love to have it somewhere on my shelf, just as a reminder that I was able to kind of co-create with Adidas and Prada. So what does it mean in terms of technology? So co-creation technologies, startups that give brands tools to better engage the community, to better set the parameters within that co-creation happens, because obviously, again, brand IP is the most valuable asset the brands have. We cannot co-create in a mode that everybody just creates what they want and suddenly that design ends up on a Gucci t-shirt. No, it needs to be kept within Gucci aesthetics and within certain parameters. So any infrastructure that would make this task easier for the brand and more engaging for the community would be extremely valuable at this point in the culture. And of course, wider community tooling. What does it mean from the user experience perspective to be a part of a digital community? How do people interact within that community? How communities interact with one another? All of that is kind of a ripe area of opportunity to build community tooling that helps kind of bring that home and also bring those communities closer to brands in branded spaces, and not rely on traditional social media platforms where often engagement is paid or restricted, and also the insights from the community engagement might often not be accessible to the brand the way they would be if they kept that community spaces in-house. And that leads me to the next kind of aspect of why community is so important for digital luxury, is that if you know your community well and you watch and observe how they interact with you, then even without invading their privacy in any way, you know who are your biggest supporters, you know who are your most vocal buyers. You can engage them in a custom way, essentially divide them into cohorts of groups based on data without any invasion of privacy, and then target or better address certain activations, initiatives, and truly understand what your community needs and better listen to their needs and translate it to your value proposition as an offering in the market. So of course, that also creates an opportunity for a Web3 CRM. Uh, a lot of those brands rely on, let's say, legacy CRM systems, but often those do not integrate Web3 data streams, wallet data. So there is a huge opportunity working with that type of data, reinventing the CRM in a Web3 paradigm, combining Web2 and Web3 data streams and integrating it into legacy CRMs. It's a really huge area of opportunity, and I would say that market is heating up quickly with a lot of great projects kind of trying to take the mantle. Of course, part of the experience of being in the community, especially in the digital realm, is also content, right? It's video, it's audio, it's visuals, but have we really explored all the ways that content can be delivered to us as audiences? Have we really explored all of the incentives alignment that could change the way creators deliver content to their audiences? That is also a right opportunity to build using Web3 paradigms and Web3 technology. And finally, let's not forget AI personalization. With all that data you're getting, you can use the power of AI to make your service tailor-made, just like we said before. Rather than exclusive to a set of people, it's actually unique to an individual. And you can really make each person in the community feel seen, special, and not make them feel like they're one of many, but make them feel like they're one of many important people that are the core to the brand identity, and kind of get this tailor-made service that we typically associate luxury brands with in the physical realm. And finally, it's about rewards and loyalty. How can you keep the community engaged? How can you keep the data trail from engagement to purchase to what happens after? How can you keep them returning? How can you keep them loyal? Previously, the luxury good, the value that realized at the moment of consumption. I purchased, let's say, a Louis Vuitton Keepo, and I'm wearing it around, and this is the, let's say, the utility I'm getting from that asset. However, with digital assets and the phygital link between a physical good and a digital good, you can keep adding different benefits and different utilities, making sure that long after the purchase was made, you can still engage your community of clients and essentially keep them loyal, keep them coming back for more, and keep this brand association live in their brains. So let's talk about experience, the second leg of our definition of digital luxury. So in post-internet era, or maybe post-e-commerce era, most products, pretty much anything with some exceptions, like Chanel, a brand that decided not to go into e-commerce as part of their brand identity, pretty much everything can be bought online. So we no longer go to the store or interact with a luxury brand for simple transactional reasons. As a consumer, I expect every interaction with a luxury brand to be an experience, preferably an experience that can be shared in a wider social context. Experiential retail is a thing, and that paradigm also seeps through to the digital spaces. And of course, the rise of the 3D internet that we're experiencing with augmented reality, mixed reality, and virtual reality definitely helps make that experience way more immersive and kind of free up from the tyranny of screens, and make those experiences come alive more and immerse the community and the users deeper in it. So a good example, Gucci created a persistence presence in Roblox, one of the core virtual worlds, one of the most prominent virtual worlds called Gucci Town. And in 2022, they celebrated the brand's 100th anniversary with an immersive experience called Gucci Garden. And that was really like a bullseye, great way to showcase the creativity, great way to show archival designs, great way to kind of build associations to the brand that go far beyond the product and are all centers around the concept that when I interact with a brand, this is a whole experience. And of course, that also goes to rewarding your community with those experiences. If your community is holding a digital asset, then you can also program it as a utility and allow them to participate in real world events as well as access digital events. And of course, we're going to see a mixture of physical and digital as the augmented reality and mixed reality technologies get adopted. So to break it down, what does it mean in the context of building technology, right? It all sounds super nice and is visually beautiful, but what's on the back end? So one aspect is the utility of digital assets. What I mean by that is that the greatest avatar or the most beautiful digital wearable doesn't really have much value if you cannot do anything with it. I think fashion is a great example because fashion is inherently created to be shared in a social setting. So if I have my beautiful wearable, I want to be able to kind of wear it in different contexts, wear it in different spaces. So if you can build any technology that adds utility to already existing digital assets, then you're golden and you have something very valuable, even if you didn't think of yourself as a luxury project. Um, that also goes to the link to the physical good, the digital backend. So right now, the dominant standard to link the physical good to a digital good is NFC technology. Used to be NFC chips. Now we're at the cusp of adoption of NFC threads that are part of the fabric of how the product is made. Of course, there are some problems applying it to retrofit and applying it to second-hand asset, but there is also some great teams working to solve it. But on the software level, how can you program that NFC that from my point, when I scan it with my phone, suddenly I can get access to all different types of utilities, all different types of experiences, online and offline? Can you add more backend utility to digital paradigm? I'm sure you can. It's all about finding new ways to immerse the user. Again, maybe it's not only about the screen and it's not only about virtual worlds. Augmented reality, mixed reality platforms will surely get a lot of our attention with the kind of release of the Vision Pro from Apple. I truly believe, unlike with Facebook branding themselves as Meta and showcasing us a video which looked fully like a VR experience, I truly believe that with the rise of Vision Pro, people will come to understand that Metaverse is an experience layer of Web3. And it's not only about virtual worlds, it's also about any paradigm in which physical world interacts with the digital world. So the true Metaverse starts at the data layer, but then the experience layer is also very important in how we understand this whole concept of a Metaverse. And of course, any experience is better if you can gamify it. Would you be able to gamify the interactions with clients? Would you be able to kind of keep it rewarding? That also ties back to loyalty and rewards that we kind of set out when we were discussing the community. Finally, what's the infrastructure in place for digital self-expression? And here I'm talking about fashion, but there is also other way of expressing yourself. But essentially, it's not only about, let's say, a beautiful 3D designs, because this is an Apple, whereas what we need to focus on to make the space bigger for everybody, bring more people into the space, bring more brands into the space from different kind of price points in the market, we need more infrastructure in place, more standardized infrastructure. So if you're coming to me with a digital NFT collection, this is amazing, and that's amazing creativity. But what I'm really focused on is if you can bring me, let's say, a scalable payment API that enables digital transactions at scale. This is my Apple tree, and this will grow the space for everybody and drive adoption. And finally, interoperability, the movement of assets across virtual worlds, digital spaces, augmented reality experiences. It's a tricky problem, and only some aspects of it are technical. The true problem here, and maybe something that at some point a very capable team could solve with the right alignment on the blockchain, is how do you align the incentives? Because right now it's not that it's technically too difficult to do, is that there is no economic reasons for the virtual worlds to open up and cooperate together as one open world. And us at Outlier Ventures, we follow the open metaverse operating system thesis as our guiding light, investing for quite some time in those type of projects. And much like Neil Stephenson first rule of the metaverse, essentially there is only one metaverse, which doesn't mean that there is only one that dominated all others. It means that there is a room for all the virtual worlds, but they're interplay together as one organism, and there is a free transfer of users and assets. But right now, let's use Roblox as an example, just because it already came up in our presentation. There's no financial reason for Roblox to open up and start exchanging assets and users with Decentraland. And that alignment of incentives needs to be solved. Maybe it can be solved with the help of technology. And definitely blockchain is always good for aligning incentives for a lot of different players in different ecosystems. So now getting back to the second part of the presentation, I want to talk to you about what makes projects successful in digital luxury vertical and beyond. Again, we've been investing in the best funders in Web3 for quite some time. And with that time, we came to realize what are the key, I wouldn't call them, maybe we can call them green flags, essentially. What are the most promising aspects that you should pay attention to understand if this is actually the team or the project that will be a winner in the market? And I would love to walk you through it now to kind of give you some actionable advice and also better illustrate how we select projects. So first, and kind of a truism in the venture capital industry, is that the team is key. And sometimes an opportunity can be amazing on paper, but it might not be the right team to execute on that opportunity. So first aspect of team, like, do they have the vision and can they communicate that vision? Are they strong communicators? Can this vision act as a call to arms to other people in the industry? Essentially, can they rally people behind them and lead the charge? Because we still need that kind of energy in context of wider adoption. Does their vision challenge the status quo, but still aligns with the trends? Sometimes the timing in the market is very important, and there is a right time for disruption. And yes, there is such a thing as kind of working on an opportunity too early when other technological components are not ready. And finally, are they able to communicate what they're trying to do to all the stakeholder groups, not just developers, not just super technical people, but also people that might not fully understand Web3 technology, but might be clients for what you're building? If you can only communicate your vision technically and there is no commercial aspect of that communication, that will cause you some problems in the long run when you go to market. Another question is, does this team have a long-term capacity to build the technology? Very often we meet people with amazing visions, but those people are still looking for some kind of a CTO person or any kind of technical resources to help them build that vision. And it's a lot to expect from investors as well as from a brand to take a risk on something that is entirely pre-product. There needs to be something that we can test or play around with to have full confidence in it. The second aspect of it is, are the incentives correctly aligned on the team? What I mean by that is that the number one killer of projects is a misalignment of incentives. That on the paper, in the pitch deck, it looks like there is, let's say, two founders and they're both amazing. But then if you look in the cap table, actually, only one person is the founder and the other person is being paid a salary and they will only get shares if they achieve certain milestones. That sounds okay, but in practice, it means that those two people are pursuing slightly different objectives. And the person that was made to reach certain milestones to actually get ownership in the business has an incentive to sugarcoat what they're doing until it's too late to fix it. So any type where, let's say, the CTO is actually also a CEO of a software house, is also not great, because then the actual technical capacity and the know-how, it stays in the software house and it's not in the company that we would invest in, which might prevent a lot of investors from investing. And finally, is there enough incentive for the core personnel in terms of ownership to work on that project long term? Not just work on it right now because it's cool, because it's a fashionable topic, and because there is investors that want to support them, but can they stick out with it for like 5 years? Because that's what it might take. So the next aspect is adaptability and coachability. And it's often a tricky balance because the best founders will take advice and will kind of adapt as they go. They might even pivot their vision. So they're very coachable. But at the same time, they also know what they want to execute and they know which advice to take. And it's not that they change direction with every piece of advice they get, but they can incorporate the advice they're getting into their long-term vision. And even if they pivot, they still know where they're going. So it's a tricky balance. So can they follow their vision and be flexible in the execution? Can they roll quickly with the punches as the market changes? I think in Web3, we all know that markets tend to change very quickly. And specifically for newly formed teams, can they work under stress without getting into each other's throats? That's often a tricky part that people skip when the team is newly formed, that they haven't worked out their dynamics yet. And suddenly when times get tough, and if you're building a startup, at some point, times will be tough, even if you're a super strong team, super well financed. All right. So the next thing to cover is market and traction. So do we have a narrative in which existing customers will switch to it? Have you identified an area that's ripe for disruption? Have you validated your business model? Because even with the best tech, if the business model was not validated, then you might not know how you're selling your product. Are you going big or are you going niche? Both strategies might have its merits, but you need to know what you're doing. Is there potential for it to scale? It's kind of the idea in the venture capital industry that we require 10x returns, potential returns, when we see the vision of your business. And that often comes down to a business model. Very often, service-based business models do not have the capacity to create a 10x return. And therefore, we need a technical product that would work for the founders while founders are asleep. And again, is the timing right? And is the market trends indicating that this is the right time for you? All right. And domain expertise. Does the team know things that other people do not know? Are they well respected and well thought of in the industry? Do they have experience specific to the opportunity they're trying to leverage? Very often, teams see an amazing opportunity, but then it turns out they have no idea about that market. Network. Can they use the network to kind of sell, but also to hire? That's also part of being an effective communicator. Are they a local player or is the reach international? And do they actually have the connections to reinforce and spread the idea of their business? And finally, are they voracious learners? Are you keen to constantly learn, constantly improve? You understand that you might not know everything, but you're keen to learn it, and you're excited to fill those gaps in the knowledge. We're almost at the end of my presentation. The last aspect we pay attention to is adaptability. So how will this technology grow in the chosen area? Is there anything that can prevent its adoption or a very fast follower from a big company that essentially would prevent you from getting to market? Can this be adopted by other projects? Is there technical progress sufficient to give you a technical edge? Is there a patent or any type of competitive moat that would prevent that bigger actor, let's say you're building something that Amazon can copy? Is there anything in place that can protect you from Amazon just doing what you started doing and then using their scale to take it to market quicker? Is the technology ready for the interactions with the market and actually hold up to commercial scrutiny? And finally, in the context of Web3, is this project suitable for tokens? Might not be. And it's often a tricky question. It's often a question of how do you align incentives for actors in the token ecosystem and what utility does token have? Because a token cannot be a security. Is it Web3 or Web 2.5? In the luxury industry, Web 2.5, when there is Web3 at the back end and Web 2 in the front end, is often a better choice because it kind of goes past the risk aversion of some of the fashion houses. And then, if it's pure Web3, is it suitably ambitious? And of course, at Outlier Ventures, we can help you answer all of those questions. And even though one of our core strengths is tokens, we would never push you into creating a token if we don't see that it makes sense for your business model. We always try to make recommendations that are in the best interest of founders. So just to wrap it up, there is a program open right now by Outlier Ventures in partnership with the amazing Futureverse. Futureverse is the ecosystem behind the Root network and the ASM protocol. if you are a metaverse builder building metaverse technology, this is currently the most holistic metaverse infrastructure technology stack to build in the Futureverse ecosystem. We also have an abundant, amazing, world-class IP. Some of it is already announced, some of it will be announced, so pay attention. But I have to say, this is the best way to take your technology to the market and give it visibility. And finally, Futureverse is supported by Born Ready, apart from Outlier Ventures, obviously, which is a fund actively deploying in metaverse technology within their vision of metaverse that starts at the data layer based on the user-centric principles and user sovereignty. So in the current moment, there is no better place to build metaverse technology than the Futureverse ecosystem. And of course, scan the QR code and check out the applications, or reach out to me directly and let us know. And we can always discuss how the accelerator can help you take your projects to the next level. So with that in mind, I want to thank you so much for your attention. It's been an honor and a pleasure to speak at the Metaverse Summit 2023. And yeah, I hope I was able to give you a better deep dive into digital luxury, as well as tell you a bit more about success project factors that we came to learn through our work at Outlier Ventures. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of the conference.